The Diocese of Kansas City, St. Joseph. The story of the faith here began with intrepid missionary priests. It came of age under the guidance of visionary bishops, and is still being written today under the leadership of its current apostle, Bishop James Johnston.
Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So Christ is risen, He's present, and we need to remember that and realize that and draw from that. He's with us, He's alive.
This is the story of the bishops of America, the shepherds of the past and the shepherds of today, who through their callings and ministry carry the church into the future. It's also the story of their parish, their church, the cathedral. This is The Chair, an exploration of what it means to be an apostle in America. Located at the confluence of the Kansas and Missouri rivers is Kansas City, the largest city in the Show Me State, and the cultural center of western Missouri. It's also the sea city of the Diocese of Kansas City, St. Joseph.
Geographically, this area where the Missouri River sort of turns here at the bluff was really the launching point for Lewis and Clark. I mean, they went westward up the Missouri here. You also have all the different westward bound trails that are so significant that we studied in American history. You know, the Oregon, the California, the Santa Fe Trail, they all passed through Kansas City. This is sort of a frontier area, and it still has that character.
The Catholic presence in the region dates back to the 1720s, when French fur trappers and traders settled in the region and set up a chapel. Over subsequent decades, the region was visited by missionary priests coming from St. Louis who worked to evangelize native peoples in the region.
The area, particularly St. Joseph, becomes known as a place where the American frontier begins to open up to the immigrant communities and the settlers. St. Joseph, situated along the Missouri River, becomes a place where the steamboats, the ox-covered wagon caravans, all these people begin to land and pick up their supplies as they move westward out into the frontier of America. It really isn't until the 1800s when a missionary priest by the name of Father Benedict Roux begins to bring Catholicism into a more permanent settlement. As Father Roux's working in the area, he does write to one of the bishops saying that there are only 9 Catholic families here and there's just not enough to sustain the work of a priest.
One of the things that really puts this region on the map in terms of its Catholic presence was the California Gold Rush of 1849 and then the Pikes Peak's Gold Rush in 1858 to 1860.
And we find not only Irish, but also Italian immigrants coming to stake their fortune, and with them they bring their Catholic faith, ensuring that more priests are going to be needed into the area. In the mid-1800s, a permanent Catholic presence begins to solidify with Fathers Donnelly and Hogan. Donnelly and Hogan begin as missionaries, but as they begin to work in the area and build churches, their missionary work becomes more of a pastoral permanence.
When Kansas City was being laid out in the 1850s, Father Bernard Donnelly, who had had experience as a civil engineer, recruited Irish laborers to come and do the back-breaking work of carving out the city street grid and cutting through the bluffs. In his efforts, he made a point to recruit Irish laborers from the same county in Ireland in order to ensure peaceful relations between the Irish. He also required the Irish workers to take an abstinence pledge while they were working for the city.
The workers that he recruited and their families became the seedbed for the first parish in Kansas City, Immaculate Conception, which was established in 1857. Father Donnelly also had an unwavering faith in Kansas City. At the time when the diocese was established in 1880, he declared that Kansas City was destined to be one of the largest cities in the United States.
John Joseph Hogan is one of the truly remarkable figures in the history of the diocese. Hogan is an immigrant from County Limerick, Ireland, and he becomes a missionary in Missouri. He first ministers to slaves in various parts of Missouri in the early 1850s, and then, after working for a while in St. Louis, begins a series of other missions, focusing on helping the transient Irish railroad workers. His missions were essentially wiped out during the Civil War, not from battles, but from attacks from bushwhackers and guerrillas who fought over contested tracts of land with practically no governmental oversight. Today, this part of Missouri where Father Hogan had his missions is known as the Irish Wilderness.
So Bishop Hogan, he traveled all over Missouri as a missionary, visiting little fledgling communities of people, planting seeds of faith, but also he faced a lot of hardship. It required people who were had some grit, who didn't get discouraged and kept going back again and again, even when they faced failure, but supporting the little seeds, and those seeds grew.
On March 3rd, 1868, Hogan was named as the first bishop of the newly erected Diocese of St. Joseph. About 12 years later, he's named the bishop of the newly erected Diocese of Kansas City in 1880, while remaining the apostolic administrator of the Diocese of St. Joseph.
During his tenure, he worked to build up the institutional structures of the diocese in order to respond to the needs of his rapidly growing flock. He invited several communities of men and women religious to serve in the diocese, including the Redemptorists and the Benedictines, as well as the Sisters of St. Joseph, who took up important work in education and healthcare ministry.
The second bishop of the Diocese of Kansas City was Thomas Francis Lillis. He serves the diocese for 25 years until his death at the age of 77 in 1938. He comes from a prosperous Irish family from Kansas City.
After his ordination, Lillis served as a parish priest before becoming vicar general for the diocese. He then became Bishop of Leavenworth, Kansas, before returning to the Diocese of Kansas City. During that time, he established several parishes as well as a minor seminary. And he's also remembered for drafting a condemnation of lynching in 1933 that he and several other bishops signed. It was one of the first formal condemnations of lynching coming from the U.S. hierarchy. During his tenure, Bishop Lillis invited several religious communities to the diocese, including two who would play an important role in Catholic higher education. He invited the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet to establish an academy that later grew into Avila University, and in 1910 he invited the Jesuits to establish Rockhurst University. At the time of its opening, the entire first class was taught by one priest, Father Alphonse Schwetala, who later became an important figure in Catholic healthcare as president of the Catholic Hospital Association.
In 1956, Pope Pius XII merges the Diocese of St. Joseph and the Diocese of Kansas City into the newly established Diocese of Kansas City St. Joseph.
And so that's why you have the Diocese of Kansas City St. Joseph. And so both of those dioceses existed up until the 50s. There was an ecclesiastical realignment of the whole state. And so St. Joseph and Kansas City, parts of both of those dioceses were brought together to form a new diocese, which is why we have two cathedrals in our diocese. There's the Cathedral of St. Joseph in St. Joseph, and the cathedral that we're in now here in Kansas City, Missouri, which is the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. As the bishop here, I celebrate the liturgy and sacraments in both of our cathedrals, but since I live here in Kansas City, I probably am present here in the cathedral here in Kansas City more often than the one in St. Joseph, but they're both liturgical centers for our diocese.
The Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception was built in 1883. It's a Romanesque revival building, and it's constructed out of brick. Kansas City is a river city, and so this really has a great relationship to place.
because of the vertical nature and the way light plays in here. The windows here take up a huge amount of the surface area. You can't but not be drawn to some of the light as well as some of the art in the windows. To sit in the chair, I think that's my favorite vantage point, is when I'm actually sitting in the cathedra looking at the people, and there's a beauty here that I'm always moved by.
The blue ceiling is both a reference to the heavens as well as to the patron of the cathedral, the Blessed Virgin.
Under the title of the Immaculate Conception, it's a very special gift, and we celebrate many, many beautiful things here, and to be aware that she's here at my side, my mind and my heart. So to really have not only my ministry, my life, but our diocese under her patronage and protection is a great comfort.
The interior of the cathedral is far more contemporary than the exterior. This building, like many cathedrals, really shows its history in the many changes over time. So it built in the late 19th centuries, more American Victorian aesthetic, renovated in 1955, and then again in 2003. And so you can see the liturgical changes. A notable feature of the interior of the cathedral is the rather contemporary configuration of liturgical furnishings. There is a predella, which is this sort of platform in the center of the cathedral. So it has a sort of circular form, all of the pews facing towards that center where the altar sacrifice is, as well as the cathedra. It's also where the word of the Lord is proclaimed at the ambo. And these liturgical furnishings, along with the baptismal font, are made of stone. They're really solid, large-scale features.
This cathedral was renovated, I believe, in the early 2000s by one of my predecessors, and the cathedra here was a part of that renovation. It's very beautiful. It's carved out of a single piece of stone. It really ties in to both the altar and the ambo here.
The cathedra or chair inside Immaculate Conception Cathedral represents Bishop Johnston's authority as the Apostle of Kansas City, St. Joseph.
Yeah, I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. Went to Catholic schools and Catholic high school. I have two sisters and a brother. I'm the oldest, and they're all married, and so I have some great nieces and nephews too. Really didn't think I was going to be a priest. I had thought about it a little bit, but went to college at the University of Tennessee at Knoxville and had a typical sort of college experience. I studied electrical engineering and then went to work in Houston, Texas after graduating. Worked for 3 years in Houston. Was wrestling with priestly vocation beginning in college and then during the years that I worked, and finally decided I needed to do something about it before it was really too late. And the longer you wait, the harder it is to make a transition. It was a deeper encounter with the Lord Jesus while I was a college student in a way that I'd never really experienced before, and it was transformative. Before that, I was just sort of going with the flow. I mean, you go to college and you're sort of on this track, but it was after that deep encounter with Christ in prayer in college that I began to more intentionally really seek His will in terms of my vocation, whether it was marriage or whether it was priesthood. And it was really sort of trying to just figure that out. But every time I would come back to considering life as a priest, it returned me to that sense of joy and peace and excitement. So having gone through that over the years, and it never went away, it dawned on me, well, God's answering my prayers. He's showing me, yes, this is a path I want you to go down. I was ordained in 1990. Next year it'll be 30 years as a priest. Had a lot of different experiences as a priest that I never imagined. I guess the most rewarding and fun parts of being a diocesan priest are the parish ministry and just getting to know families and knowing children and watching them grow up and mature and being really a part of helping them to grow spiritually along in all the other ways that they grow. So just being part of parish ministry has been a great joy, but I was also asked to teach high school. So I taught 2 years in Catholic high school. And then I was asked to go study canon law so that I could be the first chancellor of the Diocese of Knoxville. The Diocese of Knoxville was created while I was in seminary. So that was interesting to be a part of the founding of a new diocese, still one, I guess, the youngest diocese in the United States, but was really able to sort of do a lot of support work for the diocese and the bishop, all of our parishes and priests. That was very rewarding to be a part of something new and to help it grow and blossom.
In 2008, Bishop Johnston was named the next bishop of Springfield, Cape Girardeau, Missouri by Pope Benedict XVI.
Well, I remember very vividly the day I was called by the nuncio to tell me that the Holy Father had appointed me a bishop in Missouri. It was 2 days after Christmas, the feast day of St. John in 2007. Well, that morning I got a call from the secretary at the chancery saying, the nuncio wants to talk to you. So I called him back, not expecting what I heard, but he said, Pope Benedict has appointed you the next bishop, the sixth bishop of Springfield, Cape Girardeau in Missouri. And I was speechless. It didn't really register at first. So I didn't know what to say. He basically said, do you accept? And I said, well, gosh, can I think about this and process this a little bit? And he said, well, you've got 24 hours. Call me back the next day. First of all, I had to look up where Springfield and Cape Girardeau were. I knew where Missouri was, but I had no idea where this diocese was. I'd only been to Missouri twice in my life, and that was both times for a trip to St. Louis to see a Cardinal game and then to see Pope John Paul II. In the end, decided, that's part of your life as a priest. I have basically I'm at the Lord's disposal, so it's another invitation to make an act of faith. So I said, yes, I'll do my best, and I'll serve. That's it in a nutshell.
After years of ministry in the Diocese of Springfield, Cape Girardeau, Johnston was appointed the next bishop of Kansas City, St. Joseph by Pope Francis in September of 2015. In his years as bishop, he has brought to his people a deep love for the Blessed Mother and a profound faith in Jesus Christ.
My coat of arms is the one that I've carried with me since I became a bishop. Its main significance is that it's divided by 3 mountains, which represent where I'm from. I'm from East Tennessee, where the mountains are a big part of the land, and it's a big part of my life. The upper field is blue with an 8-pointed star, and it ties into my love and devotion to our Blessed Mother, putting my own ministry as a bishop under her watchful care and love. In the bottom, there are 3 scallop shells. The one scallop shell is related to my patron, St. James. That's sort of his symbol. Another is related to Pope Benedict, who appointed me bishop. He has a scallop shell on his coat of arms, and he's the one that appointed me in 2008 to be a bishop. And then the 3rd scallop shell is basically just a sign that I'm a pilgrim Christian on the way, like everyone else. There's that phrase from St. Augustine, for you I'm a bishop, with you I'm a Christian. The former scares the daylights out of me, the latter gives me comfort. There are more people alive today than any time in history, and so really the urgency of the Great Commission is more relevant because it impacts more people. And Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So Christ is risen, he's present. We can sometimes think that Jesus is far away, that he's in history, that we're just sort of following his script now. We're kind of on our own, following the instructions, but the Lord is in our midst. And we need to remember that and realize that and draw from that. And it changes everything when we realize that he's present, he's with us, he's alive.